The High Impact Governing Initiative is a collaborative partnership between the Board of Trustees and the leadership team of Teton County School District. It began about 5 years ago out of a need for a more efficient and effective way to manage ourselves and to strengthen the leadership and governance of our public school system. At that time, we were in a period of significant change and were investigating a systems approach to our operations so that there was more alignment of all the initiatives across the district. With strong leadership from the board, we worked with you, Doug, to take a hard look on how we operated. The High Impact Governing Initiative ended up establishing 3 committees. The purpose of the board committees were to review, disseminate information, and make reports and recommendations to the board as a whole. The committees do not consist of a quorum of the board and therefore have no authority to bind the board. However, they do function in a very strong advisory role. One committee is the Performance Monitoring Committee. Again, this committee, we are a 7-member board, so this committee is comprised of 3 members of the board and an administrative liaison from my leadership team. Board members are appointed in December of each year, and the Performance Monitoring Committee is accountable for overseeing the school district's educational, financial, and administrative performance. The Planning and Development Committee is also comprised of 3 different members of the board, again appointed in December, along with an administrative liaison. The Planning and Development Committee is accountable for developing and leading the board's participation in all district strategic and operational planning, including the annual budget preparation, and for overseeing the development of the district's financial resources. These committees meet monthly in preparation for the upcoming regular board meeting. Again, they recommend items for reports, workshops, and provide the background information that lead to action items at the regular business meeting of the full board. The third committee, the Governance Committee, is composed of the chairs of the Performance Monitoring and Planning Development Committees, as well as the chair of the Board of Education. Along with me, the Governance Committee is responsible for the effective functioning of the Board of Trustees and for the development and maintenance of a very close, productive board superintendent working relationship. This committee oversees the development of the monthly agenda, ensuring input from both committees. So the High Impact Governing Initiative established 3 committees that meet on a monthly basis and oversee the operations of our district. My board chair at the time, Janine Bayteski, knew that the educational landscape was changing due to a higher level of accountability placed on school districts in response to the No Child Left Behind Act. She and I recognized the need for board members to have a high level of knowledge in order to make high level of decisions without micromanaging. In order to have a high level of knowledge, this takes time to prepare for. So with your help, Doug, we took a look at all the various compartments of our operations, such as facilities, curriculum, transportation, so on and so forth, to see where we could connect our work across all areas of the district. We really took a look at breaking down just silos of operations into a more interconnected system. So with the establishment of the Planning and Development Committee and the Performance Monitoring Committee with administrative participation, multiple topics from a variety of areas are now able to be examined, and decisions are no longer made in isolation. We had a classic example a number of years ago where when we implemented school breakfasts, food service worked independently, to implement a great breakfast program for our kids, but they did not connect with our transportation system. Schools suddenly realized that students didn't have enough time to eat, and so we had to go back to the drawing board and revisit the whole decision-making process. Now, with these two committees, decisions can be made so that the impacts can be discussed across departments and schools. There are much stronger connections made and therefore better decisions in the long run. 5 years ago, we were also running multiple committees that was taxing on board members' precious time. Membership on these committees was determined more by who had the time than who had the interest and expertise. So, by switching to our high-impact governing structure, we now have tightly focused meetings that honors the time that we have in order to arrive at a decision. The process we followed was to establish a governance task force of 3 board members, myself, and an outside consultant, which was, of course, you, Doug. Over a period of months, with your guidance, we were able to take an objective look at how we operated. We then hosted a special work session where the board reviewed an action report that was developed by the governing task force. This action report consisted of detailed, practical recommendations for strengthening the board's governing role, structure, and processes. This was a highly interactive session led by board members on the task force and presenting to their peers. At a later board meeting, the trustees unanimously took a number of actions aimed at turning an already good board, consisting of all of our dedicated trustees, into even a higher impact governing body. That was a key conceptual change. The trustees, by formal resolution, first adopted a board governing mission, spelling out the trustees' principal governing functions. Secondly, they put into place the structure of the board 3 standing committees, the planning and development, performance monitoring, and governance committees. Lastly, they adopted a set of guidelines for the standing committee operations. Once this new governance structure was put into place, we knew that we had a pilot year to really work out any kinks in our system. Once it was smoothly established, the final step was to change board policies to embody the new governance structure. In establishing the High Impact Governing Initiative, this was an expression of my passionate belief that governing is a team effort, and the board and I must have a close working partnership. Better decisions addressing the more complex educational issues that we now face are made by a strong collaborative team. 5 years later, just this past January, we again stepped back to fine-tune how we were operating. We knew that we wanted to more precisely govern how we self-manage our work, making sure that we set specific goals, we have good orientation for new board members that strengthens our team building and esprit de corps, and we have board member participation in educational programs, that they have access to conferences and books and magazine articles on relevant topics of the work that we're undertaking in our instructional improvement around the district. And then we formally review how are we achieving our goals each year in each of our committees. We also wanted to continue the close work between the board and myself, as well as the board and my administrative staff liaisons, so that there is a strong connection between the administration of our educational system and the governance of our educational system. We continue to work on our board superintendent relationship, really being clear about the goals that each are working on, and dealing with any kind of improvements that were identified in previous evaluations. And then finally, one of the key benefits is that we've really been able to systematically and intensively elevate our communication with the general public, and that we really maintain strong, effective relationships with key stakeholders. We are, visible within our community. People know our mission and the message of what we're working on, and that they understand our top priorities for the year. So the fine-tuning really exemplifies the power of a high-impact governing structure that is in place.